Here, I don't think this is a pure 3-bet. And I'm going to fold on 62. I think if you play 3-bet or fold, and against the 3x, you have to play slightly tighter. So I don't think you pure 3-bet Jack-10 suited there. I could be proven wrong. 8s, I tend to mix here. On 9, I'll 3-bet. And ace-jack, I'll 3-bet as well. King 9-6 two-tone. I don't think we want to bet range in this spot, and I've rolled a 100, so I think this hand is a pretty reasonable check. You can use it as a bluff as well. Thanks, Rafa, for the good luck. And again, I don't think we get to range c-bet. Actually, in this formation, I like to use big bet or check, and so with no suits, this one will just be a pure check. We're not quite giving up. We will bluff on some turns and rivers. And then here versus small, I think we have to continue. Interesting turn. And yeah, just fold. I think the size is good. Typically on these high card boards, you see more of the big bets from in position. We will have a decent number of check raises there, but that's not one of them. And then my hand is a pure continue. I don't think there's any need to bluff raise this one, but we will have some raises. Weird. Yeah, that's a weird line. I think I'm just going to fold this. I think I have enough better calls. But on 14 I'll bet. This hand will do some of both. On this connected, I tend to use a smaller bet. Here, it's just not a line you ever face, so I'm really very much unsure. But I think having something that blocks, like, queens or jacks or something seem like a much better call, just because they block some of his king X that seems reasonable to take this line with. Here I think we can do both, but on 80 I'll check. Yeah, very strange spot. And obviously we're never folding. Do we want to value raise? I don't think so. Maybe we could have. Close. Here I think pretty good turn to overbet. Similar spot to the one earlier. I think my note on him is that he is not exactly a folder. And then I think we have a pretty clear value bet on the river as well. We'll have some misses. And he has very few jacks. A lot of 10x, some 6x of diamonds, some 5x of diamonds. I think my note on him is that he called me pretty late in a spot, which maybe was just a good call. I was bluffing. But I like to note those because there are some guys who just don't make those calls. And if you see a few of them, it can lead to a trend. So yeah, as far as what he should do there, I think before we see his hand, I think he definitely has to call a bunch of his 10s, like for sure. Ace 10 is a call. And yeah, he's just going to have a lot of hands that are 0 AV, and he's got to decide which ones to call with. I don't think there's anything much to it other than that. Yeah, I think that's just a well-played hand. Still thinking about that 8's hand. I might actually mark that one too. Mostly because I'm unsure on, I think turn seems pretty standard. Oops. Where'd it go? That one. I think turn seems like the most likely one to be correct. Obala says, is that a check raise on the turn with the 8? Yeah, the 8's with the spade. It's a good question. I think you can check raise. I don't think it's going to be pure though. Like we're getting such a good price. And the one issue with check raising a hand like this, low frequency 3-bet, but I do sometimes 3-bet these. The one issue with check raising a hand like that is when he continues, your outs are worth basically nothing. Weaker player, I'm just going to go with the small size. Whereas when you call, easy fold. When you call, your outs are still worth significantly more. Yeah. More of a semi-bluff because you have the open ender, but low spade with the 8 of spades. I agree. I don't think it's a terrible spot to check raise. So here we check back. I'm going to be tempted if he bets small. Okay, against the big bet, I'm just going to fold. But I think versus a weaker player, maybe I should even just bet the turn with spades and the gut shot. Actually, looking at this now, I wish I had bet the turn. But yeah, now I'm just going to fold. I think you can semi-bluff raise. I do think you would rather have the big spade. But it's easy to talk yourself out of all the raises when you're like, oh, well, I would rather have this. But, you know, sometimes you don't have the very best hand. I just rewatched that 10-9 suited hand. I like maybe raising there on the river too. But yeah, I'll be curious about this one. I think I think it would be okay to raise. I think I've rolled something like an 80-something though, so I don't think it'll be a pure raise, but I could easily be wrong. And then honestly, you know, I didn't really consider this, but I don't hate jamming river either. Yeah, so Avala says, just my feelings, lots of equity was on the turn. You get bluff equity by check raising the turn, especially against the small sizing. Yep, I don't disagree with any of that. At the same time, you know, he bet so small that we are getting a very good price in position. Here I would mostly fold, but versus that sizing I called. It's true that you have some fold equity and you have a bunch of equity, but you also have a bunch of equity when you call, and you're getting 5-1. Plus there are some very good rivers for you. So I think both plays are better than folding. And yeah, my guess is it's not a pure raise. But we'll look at that one in GTO Wizard at the end. So here, if it was two-tone, I would size up. On these ones, I tend to just bet small. I think we can bet pretty often, and this hand will be a high-frequency bet. So on 61, we will bet. Going to be a fairly high-frequency barrel on most turns as well. That is not one of the better turns for our range, but I still think this hand will barrel sometimes, and we rolled a 49, so I'm going to go ahead and bet. Typically, this will be a low frequency 4-bet, but I will 4-bet. Typically, these out of position ones are, the bets are more equity driven. Whereas in position, I would be much more tempted to check this back and take my equity and potentially bluff river. And then here with the gut shot, going to be a very clear bet. It's a board that neither one of us improves on much. He will improve a little more than us because he can have some kind of 6-5 suited, 7-6 suited type hands that we probably don't have, but we will have the advantage in the kind of kings through jacks. So this hand will never fold, and it's just a question of do we want to jam? I think it will jam sometimes, and I rolled a 1, so good luck me. Nice. I think this is a spot where people are getting better. I think it used to be that no one ever bluffed there and they just had kings every time. Here I think we need to mix, and I'm going to call. Well, that's a good river. I don't think my hand should be worth much on the turn. And I think many 9x's will fold, but I don't think they will all fold. And I don't think, typically the ace is one of the better ones. And yeah, nothing to do but call. Very good river, obviously, but we will still lose reasonably often. Here, I think on this one, I actually like 2-barrel mostly give up. Basically just targeting his ace highs and some underpairs. I think when we get 2 calls from a likely weaker player, we will see a ton of king X here. there's a chance he's going to show up with some kind of, queen jack or something that might fold the river. But I think especially with a heart, it's just give up. But yeah, I expect to see a king there a lot. And then here we will 4-bet sometimes, and on a 44 we will. King jack suited, one of the better hands to 4-bet. Not one of the better hands to call. Well, we're gonna 4-bet, but this hand could get weird. It's always hard to know in these spots, like, is that a miss? I mean, obviously it's a misclick, but is it the kind of misclick where you tried to 3-bet, but you just, your stars caption didn't work or whatever, and you min? Or is it the true misclick where you were not trying to raise? Who do I think is the toughest 200 zoom rig? That's a good question. I feel like the 200 zoom pool is still big enough where you play a lot with guys, but it's not like you're always at the same table. And when you play like 2,000 hands or 3,000 hands with someone, it's very hard to tell the difference between someone who is super tough and someone who is running hot. Like, I'm sure there are guys who think I am a huge nit and they can just run me over, and I'm sure there are guys who think that guy never folds and is crazy. And that's partly just variance. So like this Abby guy has crushed me through however many hands we've played. But I think in general, he's just kind of gotten the better end of the coolers. One guy who I think this casual guy, I have gotten the better of him in some big pots, mostly just in coolers, but he has put me in a lot of difficult spots. So I would put him up there. This Jontimon guy also is, he's either crazy or he's run very good against me or both. But he has been one of my toughest opponents, I would say. He often plays higher. He doesn't always play down here, so probably I've played less hands against him than some other people. But when we have played, I have not felt like I've gotten the better end of it. This will be a reasonable frequency check back, but on a 17 we'll bet. And I do like sizing up on these lower boards. And then the king 10 is not a pure raise, but I think you want to raise something like half the time. You want to raise something like half the time, and then, yeah, on a 95, I'm going to call. Something like half the time, and call the other times. It's important to have some 10s in the continuing range. And then versus a 3-bet, it's not really a line I face a lot, but I assume my 10s will not always jam. And now we have a lot of draws that can play this way, but it's kind of a funny spot because so does he. He can also have a bunch of air, so I think I'm just going to bet big. Obelisk liked my ace-4 jam. Glad you liked it. It's easy to like it when they fold. It feels a lot worse when he snap calls pocket aces or whatever. But I do think it's a hand that has to jam sometimes. And yeah, thank the RNG that you've rolled a 1. So I do think you want to go big here. I think you can even make a pretty compelling argument for wanting to jam. Queen will bet sometimes, but not 75. I think you can make a pretty compelling argument for jam as well. I'm going to have a lot of draws that bet and then call the raise. Yeah, so I just have a bunch of air that wants to bet, and I'm going to have some 10s and some strong hands that want to bet for value. So I think the big size makes sense. I don't think I'm going to go super... Do I want to value bet this? I think I do, but I think relatively small. I don't think I have a ton of hands that want to bet small. So I think just big and check are what make the most sense. You can make an argument for checking, and I think checking a 10 sometimes would be fine. I think if I were going to check a 10 though, I'd really want ace 10, just to block his ace size that, he can take a hand like ace king and 3-bet the flop and then just look to check it down and win against my misdraws. So yeah, I think I prefer the bet for the most part. Fellow BrPC are here, Fred, soon to be tournament pro. He made a deepish run the other day. Next time I'll take it down. But yeah, if you consider toughest like the guys who put you in the most annoying spots, for me anyways, I would put casual and John Timon up there. Versus 3x, I think I'm just gonna fold. I also rolled a 90. Five's going to be almost exclusively a fold versus cutoff. You can do a little bit of 3-betting. And ace-queen versus cutoff. High frequency 3-bet, not pure, but on a 23, we'll 3-bet. See if casual puts us in a tough spot. Yeah, if there's one thing Zoom teaches you, I think it's that, you know, a lot of the stories you tell yourself at regular tables are just made up. You know, like you know, you get these feelings that this guy's going after you or he's picking on you or whatever. And I don't know, like you play Zoom and it's you have no idea that you've just 3-bet the same guy 3 hands in a row. And you know, so much of it is just card distribution. Mix airing on the side of call if he opens. And jacks will mostly 3-bet, but we would mix in some calls, and then I think we'll... I'm trying to remember my GT wizard. You know, honestly, I think on 94, I think you're supposed to fold. It is very tempting to pure 4-bet jacks here, and I'm trying to follow ranges that I have, but it feels very bad. It feels very bad to fold jacks. We're gonna mark that one just to make myself feel better. But I think hijack button, I think big blind does not pure 4-bet jacks. It's funny, I feel like in the evolution of people's 4-betting, you get the start where people cold 4-bet like way too tight and it's just like queens and ace king, and then you know you see some GTO ranges and you're like, oh look, you can use some suited broadways and some tens, and next thing you know you're cold 4-betting like 10% of hands or something, and then you gotta slowly rein it back in. It's possible I went slightly too far there, but I do think I looked at this semi recently where I got in the stack in what turned out to be just a disaster of a spot. Oh, did I have the positions wrong? Oh no, sorry, this is not the right jack's hand. Here we go. Oh, and I would have flopped top set too. I thought for a second I folded in very bad positions. Is it true that PokerStars will give 25% rake back to everybody? I hope so. I've heard stories of everyone getting is it 20 or 25 from chests. I have been very lucky with the PokerStars challenges. Yeah, they've been giving me the challenge. So I didn't play on stars for years, and I did when I first came back to playing poker. I played for a little bit on ACR, and then when I joined BrPC, I started playing on stars as well. And they started me off with these tiny little challenges, but yeah, they've been giving them to me every month for a year. So hopefully that continues. So I've been getting 40%, or you know, roughly 40%. It's 40% if you play exactly the right amount, but then anything after that does not count. But yeah, roughly 40% plus the chests. I mean, the chests, honestly, as far as I can tell, are near worthless at this point. I think I get $25 a chest and I get like 1 a month or something. So yeah, that'd be great if they increase what those are worth. Kind of a weird dunk, but easy fold. I'm kind of curious enough to watch. But yeah, I heard the rumors I heard. That's a really big 4-bet. I still think I have to pure continue tens, but I'm not thrilled. The rumor I heard is that PokerStars is going to give the 40% challenges to most players, but maybe not everyone. and then the chest thing will be for everyone. So these are gross spots where I think I have to mostly fold tens. I can still have basically all of the ace king and the pairs better than tens. And I think, maybe we'll mark this one too. I think we just have to play absurdly nitty, even though he's bet small. And it's like,